Welcome back to the Proximity is Power podcast. We got Jaxon Cummings in the house today. Jaxon, thanks for coming on, bro.
It's an absolute honor.
Me and Jaxon are new best friends, so I'm pumped for today. Jaxon is from Farmington, Utah. He is the founder of Your Life Legacy. I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's a company dedicated to capturing and preserving the life stories of individuals through professionally crafted video documentaries. So ensuring their wisdom and experiences and values live on past generations. So really cool. Honestly, we're going to dive into that a lot today. So pumped to talk about where that idea came from and just the value of it. The company has built a strong social media presence with 50,000 followers on Facebook, 13,000 on Instagram, and 6,000 on YouTube. And he started it just 2.5 years ago. Jaxon is also the host of the podcast called the Life Legacy Podcast, where he explores how individuals can create a meaningful life legacy and live a life of deep fulfillment. And you guys will notice like a lot of the guests that Jaxon has on his podcast.
We have a ton of similar guests.
A ton of the same guests. And it's awesome to hear like his vibe with his podcast and then mine. And it's like you learn just even deeper on the guests that we've had on. So it's cool to double dip on that. And he's single, ladies. So his DMs are open.
I'm definitely single. I've cared a lot to work with beautiful people and kind of build my career. And now we're kind of at the point where dating and that stuff's a lot more available.
Yeah.
But something really cool is Gage is really good at connecting with powerhouses. And so it's cool to see your podcast and what you're doing. Your setup's great. And
dude, thanks, man.
I'm honored to be here.
Dude, honestly, I'm really good at cold outreach. I mean, I got into door to door and I'm not scared to get rejected. And I feel like, even with you, dude, like I saw your podcast trending, and listened to one with Casey Baugh. And then I like literally got in your DMs. I'm like, bro, we need you're doing a lot of cool things. Like I'd love to connect. And we did. So here we are.
Yeah, man. I would say like you just hit on something so simple, but so powerful. I think 50 to 60% of the battle is just making that introduction. Like that guy out there, I've never met him before, but it's like, hey, shake the powerful person's hand, introduce yourself, and build a relationship.
Yeah, it's so true because so many people are just like everyone has the innate fear of rejection, right? And everything good in life comes on the other side of rejection, like almost always. And I just feel like rejection, like overcoming rejection is like a muscle. And the more you put yourself out there, the more you ask, the more you get rejected, the more easy it is to get yourself in comfortable places that lead you to more rejection. But from that, you'll get better at asking and you'll get yeses,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool.
I think, when a person realizes the paradigm shift that they need to have with rejection and failure as a stepping stone to success, that's when life really starts. And when you're able to get out of that comfort and just put yourself in a little bit of fear, dude, there's so much power in that moment. And then on the other side, you feel great. Even if it goes poorly, if it goes horrible, it's like, I shot my shot. And that's a big important thing about showing up daily and living a fulfilled life is making sure those regrets, don't haunt you at night. And how to make sure that doesn't happen, I think comes with shooting your shot and being okay with rejection and failure.
Amen. Because it's like, if you don't ask, it's still a no. Like it's already a no. So might as well ask and have the chance for it to be a yes, So, dude, just going way back. So you're from Farmington, Utah. So tell us about your background for those that haven't met you before.
Yeah. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. And growing up in Farmington, four other brothers, just a madhouse of sports and chaos. But entrepreneurship is in my blood from both sides of my grandparents, starting and growing towns to like my grandpa who got me into my first self-help book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. He started door to door selling cookware, and my grandma met him when he was washing his Cadillac because he was this young son of a gun that he was chasing after his dreams and being proactive. And then he did a diamond business. Then my dad at age 13 bought into his first piece of real estate. And so like all this stuff of proactive entrepreneurs has really set me up to, I think the biggest thing I've learned from them is my belief system. I have no ceiling of what is possible if I'm willing to put in the work and dream big.
Wow. So you just had a family and a lens of the world at a really young age of like,
Yeah,
so anything is possible, basically.
definitely.
I love that. So wait. So your grandpa was washing his Cadillac and your grandma came up to him and...
So I guess he was washing his Cadillac and she was seeing him from the window and she's like, I'd love to marry a guy like that.
With a Cadillac.
Yeah. And he,
Love that.
always a bougie guy. But then he was knocking on doors and his like last meeting was with her. And she said that he would do that when he wanted to like take a girl out or something.
That's funny.
And so I guess she was like his last appointment to sell, but really to get dates going and stuff.
Heck yeah. So growing up playing sports, did you know what you wanted to do growing up, like for a career?
So I always wanted to buy and sell businesses. I thought starting a business from the ground up would be a horrible idea. And like the success rates of doing that after 10 years, it's like a 95% failure rate. And so I always wanted to buy a business from someone that was exiting or where they have like 20 years of proof that like this business functions well. And so my plan was always to go and buy and sell businesses and just upgrade them a little bit. Kind of like how people flip houses. I wanted to flip businesses. And for a long time, the goal was just do that and retire by 35, have my wife and, travel the world and try and serve.
I love that. So you always knew that you liked business and that you wanted to flip businesses. That's cool. Were you entrepreneurial, would you say, growing up?
Well, depends like the terms of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But like I sold cherries on our corner, lemonade stands, doing that all the time. Growing up with a family that we cared about real estate, and we do care about real estate a lot. To this day, from being 5 years old, I would get out of the car with my dad and go pick up the flyer that had the for sale sign on any house we were at, any house that was under construction. Like we would go walk through it, even if it wasn't ours. And to this day, I'll be on a date or something and I see that for sale sign and they had the paper and I'm like, sorry, one sec. Like we got to pull over and it's fun.
That's awesome.
So I think it's embedded pretty deep.
Heck yeah. So you graduate high school and what happens next?
Yeah. So, and I, growing up, junior high school, all those years, I always liked being the class clown, that kind of thing where push the limits for some adrenaline. And so I decided to graduate a little bit early from high school. And a couple of my best friends and I, we all did that. And we went out to go sell door to door. And we were out there for like a couple of weeks. And our manager, who was above us, and it was one of my best friend's buddy's brother, he kind of had a big breakup with the company. And so they're all like, yeah, we're heading out. Like, we're not doing this anymore with that company. And then they were going to go do a different type of door-to-door sell. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I decided that I would start my solo adventure and go move to Hawaii by myself. I hadn't been there since I was like 8, 10 years old. And I was like, I'm going to go to Hawaii and just figure out a job there. I didn't know anyone, and we talked about Hawaii just a little bit ago, but ended up moving out there, doing super simple jobs, but that taught me how to create relationships pretty well. I've always had a bunch of friends. I think that's one of God's compensations in my world, is surrounding me with amazing people. And so my first friend out in Hawaii, he was a 6'6" poly from New Zealand. And so that was a good moment in life. And then I had an interesting like spiritual journey for a long time. And so from like 12 to 18, 19, 12 to 18, I didn't have a care or knowledge of God too much. And there were some circumstances prior that led me to kind of take on a spiritual journey without, faith in my life. And I had a life-altering experience that let me know that God was real and that he loves me. That totally changed everything. So after I went to Hawaii, I started preparing for a mission. And so I went on a mission for 2 years to Mexico. And that's where my life really changed. Was I was sitting down one day reading the scriptures, and as I was reading, I just had a thought that I don't believe was mine, that told me your life purpose is to positively influence millions of people's lives to help them make a pivotal change that will forever upgrade the quality of their life. And that really shook me to my core, where it's like, I now know what I'm meant to do here on earth. And instead of doing the 35 and retire, now I don't know if retiring is ever like fully in the playbook.
Dude, wow. Wow, that's really cool. And I remember you telling me your life purpose, like that same thing at lunch. And I was like, dude, that's so crazy because it's so similar to mine. And so like, I feel like that's why we vibed. So wait, so just going back. So you graduate high school, you go out and do summer sales. Mm-hmm. What were you selling, first of all?
We were selling alarms.
Okay. And that went to crap.
Yeah, it did.
And then you're like, so you basically, your whole team goes home, and then you're like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then you just have an idea to like go to Hawaii by yourself.
So I was talking to one of my brothers, and he's like, I have a friend that lives out in Hawaii, and he runs a zip lining company. I was like, oh, that sounds like the sickest thing ever.
Right.
And
Fun job.
Without having a job ready or like any commitments, I was like, let's do it. Like, I'm going to send it and go.
Wow. And what island did you go to?
I was on Oahu.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah. And then how long were you living in Hawaii?
I was like 4.5 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, talk about like getting out of your comfort zone. Like you graduated high school and you're like, I'm going to go knock doors. And then that didn't shake out how you planned. And then you're like, I'm going to go move to somewhere where I don't know a single soul.
Yeah, it was wild. And I'll actually tell you about the first day, just because it is wild. But it was so hard to find housing. I don't know if that's still a problem, but so for about a couple months, I'd called everyone and no one answered, no one responded. I'm about to cancel my flight to Hawaii. And the night before at like 2 a.m, this lady answers and she says that I could come live there. And so I'm like, great. And I wasn't going to BYU. I wasn't doing any school out there. It was just to work and, start my own adventure. I get out there. I take a $90 Uber from the airport to North Shore, and I show up at her house with my 2 giant pieces of suitcases. And I get to her door. I'm like, hey, I'm here. And she's like, okay, well, you know, BYU student, you can't live here. And so I'm there. I haven't been there since I was 8 years old. And I'm just sitting there with my suitcases like, what the freak am I going to do? I was like, I thought we talked about this. Like you said last night to come and that I would have a place and you knew I wasn't a BYU student. She's like, oh yeah, you can't live here. And she's like, what are you going to do? And it's like, I don't know. I'll set up my hammock on the beach. And she's like, oh, that's too dangerous. And I'm like, well, you're not letting me stay here. And she's like, okay, you stay for one day. And I end up calling everyone and a miracle happens. And this guy's like, yeah, I have a place. And I'm like, great. I want to, I'd love to move.
Wow.
And he's like, okay, in 2 weeks, a spot opens. I'm like, I don't have a place to stay. And so I slept on some couch in a house that had 18 people in it when it really probably should have had like 10 max. And
Wow.
so that was the start of my Hawaii journey. And I'm just like, what did I just get myself into?
Like what did you sign up for?
Yeah.
Holy cow. And then, so you worked as a zipline guy.
I actually didn't. I worked at a luau where I had I think it's called a fallout, where it's like the skirt.
Yeah.
And I was just a server at a luau.
Let's
and then
go.
on my days off, I was in the ocean.
Let's go. Okay, that's really cool experience. I bet. Yeah, obviously it taught you a lot. And then you go on a mission. You have this like awakening of like, oh, I know I'm here, and I know exactly what I need to do.
Yep.
Pretty much. Dude, that's really cool. I actually like the same thing happened to me at a Tony Robbins event. Like we did this meditation, and then in the middle of it, I was like, my life isn't my life, it's God's life. Like my money's not my money, it's God's money. Like I'm here to love and serve and give. And I just like, everyone was like crying after the meditation, but I was like, I was shook. And I was like, I wasn't like, if my life ended that day, I wasn't like proud with like the impact or like the level of giving and contribution I had made. And I made it like, that's when I got the idea for the podcast and like so many other things. And it was just like, yeah, a blessing. So that's really cool. So did you know, obviously like being a positive influence to as many people as you can is such a broad thing. Did you have an idea of like how you were going to do that?
No idea.
Okay.
I after my mission, my dream was to find work that would be fulfilling to God and would help me become the person where I could have the influence to help as many people as possible. And that was as niche as I could go. And then any opportunities that came up that felt like they would help me build myself or would help with whatever the will is of my life. I've tried to be very intentional with that.
I love that. So you get back from the mission and what happens?
Yeah. I have this kind of perfect plan laid out. I was going to go live in this mansion in Provo with best friends. We'll be surrounded by girls and we'll be surrounded by like killer business guys that will just do really cool things in life. And I was so sure that was what I was supposed to go. And I was just trying to figure out if I was going to go to BYU or UVU in Utah. And I could not get confirmation that that was right for my life for some reason. Really weird. Because it was just set up to be perfect. And then a couple weeks go by and I can't get confirmation. And I think God is the ultimate board advisor of your company, your life, everything. So as aligned as you can get on that, magic will happen. And so I just couldn't get confirmation that my board advisor was giving me the green light, and it felt more like a yellow or a red light. So I was praying about it, trying to figure it out. And I went to the temple and I was like, how can I help incentivize God to answer this question for me? So I changed the question of like, is it right for me to go to BYU or UVU? Planned it all out. And I changed it to, where can I make the most impact for thee? And as soon as I changed my question to that, it was an instant you're going to Ensign College, which to me sounded horrific, like stupid idea, where that meant I would be living at home, social life would be a lot lower. Going to college there is a lot. I don't know, just quality wise, I think it's a little bit lower. And so I did not understand why. But that's what I did. Had some unreal experiences that taught me that I really needed to be there, that were kind of game changing in my world. Then I became a troubled youth counselor in Anasazi in Arizona, where we'd go out to the wilderness and these kids would be out there for 6 weeks. It's the most primitive thing you could ever imagine. If you want food, you're making a fire just out of sticks and a rope, and super special experience. You're sleeping on the ground with a tarp and a sleeping bag, but you have the opportunity to change these kids' lives for the better. And we saw endless success and miracles in helping these kids realize that they're amazing people. So that, I think, will help me be a lot better father because of that experience.
Wow. And you got that experience through going to that school. Wow.
Yeah. I think the biggest part of going to that school was I talked about how I had a life-changing moment where I learned that God loved me and that he was real. And that was experienced through my friends put on this little God night. And with that, I just learned that it was all real to me. And I helped put on a similar thing, but with my little brother and his friend group. And it ended up growing a lot, where people wanted to change and kind of get this group to do good. And we ended up having over 50 people every Sunday come, and we just try to help the community. We raised money to give to people for Christmas, a bunch of different things like that. That was really powerful and needed in a lot of people's lives, and my life too, where that's why I went to school there, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, that's really special.
Yeah. So cool.
That's really cool. I feel like those youth things of like, we've been given so much, and like when you strip it down, like I just remember being so humbled going on like scout even campouts, like wilderness survival, like doing some of those merit badges just like humbled me so much of like, wow, I've been given so much. And yeah, it teaches you a lot, like to man up in life. So.
Yeah. See, I was complete opposite. If it wasn't like boating or something really fun, I wasn't going.
Oh yeah.
Didn't care about any of that stuff.
Dude, and I didn't want to go either. Like but my parents made it like no choice. Like I had to get my Eagle Scout to get a cell phone. And so I literally got my Eagle at like 14 when most people don't even get it, or they get it at like 18, right? So dude, really cool. So you graduate from Ensign, and then were you working through school or just...
Yeah, I actually didn't graduate from Ensign, but I did that summer off. Then I ended up going to BYU for a little bit, and then I started working in tech sales, and I just saw my growth and learning go a lot higher, and it was a lot more exponential, where I wanted to put more time into it. And another thing with my college education, it was different. I wasn't going there for a degree. I was going there to learn specific skills and understand how to run a business, things like that, and get better connections. That's why I went to college. It was never for a degree.
Smart.
And a lot of people never gave that response ever to me, you know?
Yeah, most people are like, I'm just there for the piece of paper, and they don't try to learn or really apply anything that they're...
And I think that's a normal downfall, is as soon as people get that degree, they feel like their education is kind of done. Like they get a check off education, which is like such a horrible idea. And I really care about specified education of what I care about and what I want to dive into. It's like you can go a mile wide or a mile deep in what you care about, and there's a lot of power, and you get so much beautiful experience when you go in depth of what you care about.
Agreed, 100%. And it's like school is really just the starting point, but like once you graduate, that's really when you really got to start learning. And
100%.
most people, I heard a stat, most people don't even read a book a year these days. Like, and it's just sad because I feel like the most valuable things I learned from school is how to read and math. Like those are like the two things I use most from school, and obviously relationships too. So proximity is power, you know?
That's right.
Dude, so when do you get the idea for your business?
Yeah. So it started when I was at that tech sales. Like I had a first initial tech sales job, and then I was excelling a little bit, and then I got my first like big boy tech sales job. And during that, I was just a sales guy at a tech company, which is great. But I got COVID, and in those 2 weeks, I was like, what can I do? I have 2 weeks to do whatever I want. It was kind of like my free break of whatever I could do. So I decided that I wanted to raise money to give Christmas to people that wouldn't be able to have it. And after 2 days, I raised over $10,000 and found a way how I could distribute that money to families in Honduras. And we ended up giving, it was about 6 wards worth of people Christmas in Honduras. And it just taught me like, wow, if I am intentional with my time and what I'm focused on, I can't be an ant at a company. Like I need to be calling my own shots a little bit better than I currently am. So I came back and I just told them like, hey, I got to put in my 2 weeks. It's been great working here, but I gotta start my own journey. And that's really when my call to adventure started. I wanted to do something that would help, I wanted to help businesses and nonprofits work together. And I became a CEO of this company for about 6 months. And throughout that whole time, I always wanted to capture my father's story. My father has the craziest life and craziest story out there. To me, I'm sure that's super biased because I'm his son. But I told him for about 5 years, you need to write a book. You need to do this. Everything I've been able to learn from him, I want my future kids and grandkids to know who has made a ripple effect in the Cummings legacy. And it's totally my dad. And so I bugged him for about 5 years throughout that time to write his book. Being a serial entrepreneur, never picked up a pen or pencil, never did anything. That's why I gave you that book, so you can get started. And with that, one day I was just watching a documentary. It's actually Kanye West documentary where I just got hit by a train where I was like, I have to capture my father's story like this. It'd be so much cooler in video like this. And that was a moment where it kind of shook me to my core, where I was like, not only am I going to be able to do my personal life purpose, I think I can 10x that with this company where if I do my dad's story right, and it works, I think we could do something bigger with this. So I started learning, and it was like, you either have to be famous or you have to pay $50,000 to $100,000 for a really well done production of video. And so I kind of jumped into it there, where I was like, I just want to do this project for my dad, but I don't want to learn on his. So I got one of the best cinematographers that I knew. He'd done like 20 years with really great work, worked for Chevrolet, a bunch of stuff. We shot a couple documentaries, and then it was like, you know what, this is good enough where I want to do it for you, Dad. And so we started talking, we started preparing a little bit. And during that time of his preparation, he actually passed away unexpectedly, which just gave myself and my family this giant regret that there were so many things that my dad took to the grave that does not belong there, and it belongs for my kids and my grandkids. But because we weren't proactive enough, and he died unexpectedly at 63, it just shook us where we didn't capture everything that should have been captured. And there's a study that after 2 to 3 generations, even if someone's made a giant impact like my father, he will just be forgotten. And that doesn't sit well with me. It shouldn't sit well with anyone and their loved ones. And so I wanted to create a fully functional solution that would be so simple for a family and so effective for the future generations to come. And when that happened, that's when it went from like, this is a cool idea that I want to do, to I have no choice but to do this. And I'm not the only one that has experienced this, and the amount of people I talk to where it's like, yeah, I wish we would have done it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm now just, Your Life Legacy is the solution to capture someone's life and their story in the most effective way in 2025.
Wow. Dude, that's such a cool story. Like, legit. And I'm sorry about your dad. That's terrible. But that's so cool of you for like realizing like, hey, I didn't capture my dad's story, and I don't want anyone else to have an excuse to not capture their loved one's story. Like, how cool.
Yeah.
And so
Thanks.
basically, dude, you're watching the Kanye documentary and you're like, holy crap. And dude, I've seen the Kanye documentary. It's sick that they have so much footage of him throughout, like, even the beginning. I was at this event and they talked about documenting like the beginning, like document the journey, because you'll wish like when you do reach peaks, you'll look back and wish you could reminisce like the beginning days, right? And so that's really cool. But you saw that documentary and you're like, I want to do this for like loved ones, and like so they don't just die and get forgotten. Like their life and their lessons can live on past themselves. That's really cool. I honestly was just at Tony Robbins Finance in Canada, and Peter Diamandis, he's like a big AI guy, was talking, and he literally said, you need to have 4 hours plus, get as much video, audio recordings of your loved ones as you can, because AI is going crazy, and you'll be able to talk to your loved ones that are dead if you have enough audio and video. And like the more you have, the more you can, the better the AI version will be. And like your grandkids will be able to talk to your parents. Like, it's just crazy what's happening with tech. And so I think like, dude, your business idea is so sick, because it's like, dude, people, like, I've never heard of that before. Like, it's not a thing. Like you said, it's like, and if it is, it's like 50 to 100K.
Yeah.
And you guys charge way less than that. And it's like actually affordable for people.
Yeah. And there's some other solutions out there that's like, they might be cheaper. We care a ton about high quality and effectiveness of their time. Like, and then our interview style just dives super deep into what the family will care about mixed with what they want to leave. And it's a powerful experience. Like, I've seen it be, the week of like getting to think about your life and have someone with the expertise to walk you through best ways to talk about it, things like that. It's extremely powerful, where you get to reflect on all the great things, and a lot of healing normally happens. I could talk about that forever, but a really cool study I recently learned about, it's with Robin Feisch. She's this researcher that wanted to know what would make the success of a child like most prevalent. Like, what can we do to give children success? So they did this longitudinal study across thousands of people in America to find out what would be some of the biggest keys to give these kids success. And it came down to above having both parents in the house together, above high education, above location of where they are, the biggest things that will ensure that your children will have self-assurance, high resilience, of what is it? It's a closer family and like personal happiness is knowing your own family history. And that doesn't mean like you need to go back thousands of years. They said that as long as they knew kind of like where their parents and grandparents came from, it was the number one key indicator to the success of a child. And when I learned that shook my world. Like I felt like that was kind of true, like how powerful it is and like how much it's helped my own world. But if you want to check out a cool study, that's pretty wild.
Wow.
And so it was so earth shattering that a bunch of researchers stopped what they were doing in their normal research and they're attacking this now because people didn't realize that would have such an influence, but it does. And I've seen it with families.
It makes sense because like if people just knew their family's identity and like their origin story of where they came from, how they got to Utah or wherever they're from, like, and a little bit of that about their history, they can feel so much more secure, I feel like, and loved and like gratitude for their ancestors, right? And it makes so much sense. That's really cool.
With something like that, I think of like some of my harder moments in my life. I think back when my dad was heavy in real estate and the '08 market crash happens.
Mm-hmm.
He is given, I think, 24 hours before he was going to lose his house. And somehow he figured out how to make everything okay. And at his funeral, I learned there was 8 people that was they were all in the same situation as my dad. And only 2 of those 8 people made it back out well and continued to progress pretty well. And my dad was one of them. And little things like that, it's like whatever I'm personally going through and I need a moment of hope, I cannot just grab from my own stacking of wins. I can grab from my parents. I can grab from my grandparents. And it changes your identity and gives you more hope for who you can be.
Amen. That's really cool. I've never thought about that. Like, yeah, you can literally count the wins from the people you came from. So that's really cool. So you have this idea, and how did you make it happen?
It was wild. Sincerely, because I jumped into a field that I didn't know anything about video. All I knew is I wanted my dad's story captured, and I was hoping that a third party could take care of it, like what we do now for people. And so just through some trial and error, I learned. Well, first say your question again. Sorry,
I just said how'd you turn your idea into
reality?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the most beautiful things is being able to create something that makes money out of thin air. It's a special moment. But it started with just getting the right people around me. And I got a couple really intelligent people where I was like, hey, this is my vision. And I have no idea how I'm going to do it. And if your why isn't like, if you understand the how to achieve your why probably isn't big enough. And so instead of focusing on how, I like to focus on who can help do the how, if that makes sense. And so I got a couple brilliant minds around me to help build the infrastructure and the operations side of it and just learning as we went. And then when my dad passed, it gave me this specific insight of everything that I wanted to help improve was to make my father's legacy last an extra 100 or 200 years. And what would actually matter for my dad to talk about to me. And that's always what I keep forefront of everything. And so started with getting a couple key people, reaching out to anyone and everyone that I thought would be a good fit for it, getting unreal amount of rejection. My first year in my business, I crawled through the trenches, and I was bloody, tears and everything, where I had a lot of moments of, how am I supposed to make this work? And that's a reality that people kind of have to go through, especially if you feel like you're paving your own path, where you're like inventing the wheel in that area. It's a wild journey, but myself and my family, we're scrappy. We're really scrappy. And so I found a lot of ways to work with really amazing people where cost was low. And then I was able to bring on a lot of interns that helped us grow, where they were getting, real experience. And anyone that I work with, I always want to add more value than we're getting. And then that just builds real relationships that, they'll come to your house and they want to be friends. And it's not just a transaction. And so after that first year, I learned a lot of things, and then we've just been able to have more growth, and we still run into obstacles like every day. And there's a lot of things that keep me up at night every day. But a good thing to keep in mind whenever you're starting or doing anything is you just got to get 1% better. If you're having some success throughout the week, like, pat yourself on the back a little and continue to push hard. And people, like my business, people are seeing it, and I've seen a lot of them get started, and that's just a reality. And you got to keep ahead of the game. You got to be strategic. You got to be innovating weekly and trying new things all the time. And just be willing to suck, and then learn from what you sucked at.
Wow. Dude, I heard a quote that I love. Everything worth doing is worth doing shitty at first.
100%.
Fire, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's not going to be great at the beginning, but you'll learn, you'll get better. And if innovation's on your mind, it will, and like you said, get 1% better. Don't try to make it perfect overnight. But so many people never start anything because they're perfectionists and they want it to be perfect first, right? But that's not how you even get to be good at it. Like, it's a lot of trial and error. It's like, to master any skill, it takes 10,000 hours, right? And so you just got to get in the game, and don't let, not being perfect keep you from doing it. I love what you said too about, like, you had such a strong why to start the business. Like, you wanted to capture your dad's story, and then your dad passed away unexpectedly. And you're like, that sucks. Like, I can't capture that anymore. And I don't want that. Like, I don't want people to not have, a reason not to capture their own loved one's story. Because reasons do come first, answers come second. Like, and you didn't know what the first step was, maybe, of like how to make your dream of documenting people's lives and legacies into reality and make it a business that would benefit a lot of people. But I love what you said too, of like, you found people in that industry. Like, you didn't know film, you didn't know video, you got in contact with people that did at a high level and had way more experience than you did. Because I've said this on another podcast, but like, in life, there's always a gap from where you are and where you want to be. Like, you starting a business, you're like, I suck at video, I need to find someone great at video. And it's like, first you got to have your why. Okay, you had a strong why. I want to capture people's stories. So yeah. And then you find the who. Because a lot of people think about the how, but just change the how, like you said, to who. Who, not how, right? Who's done video at a high level that I could go learn from to speed that process up way faster. Because that's like the whole thing of proximity is power. Like, proximity is the how to doing what you want to do in life. Like, just get in proximity with people that have done it. So I love it. I just want to hit on that. So.
Yeah, 100%. One of my favorite learnings was from Richard Branson, who did Virgin Airlines, Virgin Cruises, all that stuff.
Beast entrepreneur.
Yeah. He's so cool and he's so fun to learn from. A big takeaway that I had from him is your role as a founder or CEO is be able to craft and build a vision so well that you can get the best people in the world around you and at the table helping you build that. So when he built Virgin Airlines, he's like, I don't know how to run an airplane company, but you know who does? I think it's American Airlines. It was like their number 2 guy. And he always goes after the number 2 guy of some of the best companies, of like the number 1 company in whatever he's doing. It's really harder said than done, but you can get powerhouses around you, and you don't need to go through 20 years of learning that experience on your own. I could have started the company and taken 5 years to get good at running a camera. But I felt, and I still feel every day, there's people dying, and it's my fault if I am not capturing their story. And so I don't have time to learn how to work a camera. And I do a little bit now, but I still suck. And there is really a ton of power to proximity. And something that helped my educational journey a ton. I was taking an entrepreneurship class, and they asked us to go interview an entrepreneur that had done decently well or something. I found a guy that had done over 100 million in business. And at that time, every shower I was taking, I was listening to, motivational stuff, Tony Robbins, all that. And I just had hunger. But I remember getting on that call with someone that has 40 years of experience of killing it and just having my mind blown. And that taught me in that time, I need to focus around being around people that are 20 years ahead and learn the gems of their story and where did they fall. And so, for example, John Schmidt, the piano guys, he's one of the greatest father figures I have ever seen. And I want to be a great father. My parents got separated, so the studies and the statistics go against me having a good relationship in a marriage. And so I wanted to do everything to prove those studies wrong. So I do it by getting with the best people in the room of whatever I want to achieve. And so with John, I'm like, John, you are sincerely one of the greatest father figures I've ever seen. Like, I need to learn how to do that really well. Can we sit down for 10, 20 minutes? I just want to ask you some questions. It never is 10 or 20 minutes. It's normally an hour to 2 hours, like a podcast. And you just ask them everything, any question you want. And you will learn the roadmap of how to be successful at that thing. And I've just used that in every different area of my life that is important. And I try to do it like once a month. And I was doing that through college. And that's why I started with I am standing on the shoulders of giants, because these giants have given me insights that has altered my life and my mindset of what's possible.
Wow. No, dude, I can't echo what you're saying enough. Dude, just thinking about what you're saying, like, especially what you're saying about how, like, dude, every day people are dying, and it's my duty, it's my obligation to get this message out there, get my product out there for everyone to see and utilize before their loved ones pass away, right? And I think about this concept of push and pull. Tony Robbins talks about this, but he's like, dude, most people start their life with push motivation, doing it for them, right? They want the Lamborghini, they want the eyeballs, they want the house, the car, like they want the trips, the vacations, and they're doing it for them, which is fine. Like, you can start out with push motivation, but it'll only get you so far. Like, most people will do way more for others than they will for themselves. And Tony talks about, like, everyone in life should create a compelling future that's bigger than them.
1,000%.
That's for more people, because if you have, like, Tony talks about how he had this goal of doing 1 billion meals, like giving 1 billion meals. And that like pulled him every day when he didn't feel like working or expanding and growing his business. He just remembered, I want to feed 1 billion meals. I have to show up today and I have to give outstanding results to the people in my life. I have to get outstanding results in my business so I can go fund this goal. And it's so cool, but like just having a bigger vision that's bigger than you, like will pull you on the days you don't feel like it, will motivate you on the days you don't feel like it. And it's even like this podcast. I'm like, if I don't make this podcast great, this episode great, less people will hear it and less people will be impacted. Like it's my duty to make each podcast episode the best I can, not for me, but for the people it could serve if it is outstanding.
1,000%.
So I love that.
I think the push-pull thing is so important. On my podcast, probably one of the greatest realizations that I kind of understood subconsciously, but that is rang so true with everyone I've talked about. The more outward mindset you are, the more success you'll drive. And with my personal story, I learned this at a really young age, the power of this. And I was 12 years old and I was talking to my dad, and it was in a time where he was doing really well financially, and his life in other areas, he was at, near a rocky bottom. And I remember feeling pretty sad, but he told me, we'd never talked about net worth or anything like that, but he told me his net worth, and it was what people strive for and what they would love to have in their life. And as a 12-year-old kid, I'm like, this is what everyone goes for, and you have it. And I remember sitting there so confused because my dad has everything that everyone wants, but I don't want his life. I love him as who he is and everything, but I do not want his life. And that's when I realized if you put money as your number one go-to, you're going to fall short. And that's why all these successful people that stay inward and stay around the Lamborghini, the dream houses, all that, it's going to be very empty. Tony Robbins talks about the biggest failure is having everything and succeeding and feeling like you're nothing. And people go through that all the time. So at age 12, that taught me I need to learn what it actually takes to live a fulfilled life. And so from then on, I have worked on the art of fulfillment. And my long-term play is I will be helping a lot of people understand how to live a fulfilled life. And right now I'm getting so many opportunities to talk with the most successful people. I'm capturing people's entire life stories, and they tell me what has been the most important things to focus on. And it's really beautiful. And someone I would advise anyone to look into is Arthur Brooks. He focuses on the art of fulfillment, how to live a fully happy life. And it's really important. And so many people miss so many critical, tiny things that are not tiny, and they make a giant imprint, or they make a giant imprint in your life and your success that you'll have. And how you feel on the inside will come depending on, a couple important choices.
Wow. Dude, I love what you're saying. Like, this is so gold, by the way. Like, you're nailing it. Tony works with like a lot of different types of people, like top athletes, presidents of the United States, top executives, CEOs. And majority of the time when they come to him, they have like, Tony says like, there's like two skills in life, like the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. Like a lot of these people that come to him have mastered the science of achievement. Like they've been successful at whatever they've been in, but oftentimes they were using that push motivation. They were doing it for them. They were doing what they thought would make them happy, right? And he's like, life isn't about me, it's about we. And it's like, if you can make a goal bigger than you, that serves more people than you, that's when you'll be fulfilled. And people get get fulfillment in a lot of different ways. And every way is different for you, but you got to find out what you're passionate about, how you think you can serve the most people, and just go all in on that. And that's what's really cool. So,
yeah, I just to add to it, there's been tons of studies around this, and it's kind of came down to 4 really important things. So first is faith, which doesn't have to mean like God, the creator, and all that stuff. It can just mean something bigger than yourself. You're making an impact giant that's above yourself, and that's going outward. Then second is family. Having decent family relationships and keeping that core is really important. And third is friends, and just, like having real friendships. And again, wide is okay, deep is amazing. And that's where you're going to feel fulfilled. And then fourth is your work. And there's 2 parts of your work that's really important. One, you need to achieve your own success. Like you need to create success in your life. And 2, you need to serve the world and the people around you. And that is what studies have shown. That is the most important things. And then
what are the 4 again?
So it is faith, family, friends, and work. And then work is put into 2 separate things of creating your own success, whatever that looks like to you, and then serving others. And when I started this journey, I was reading a book. It's by Tony Robbins, and we've talked about it, but for him, what he's seen is really important is around progression and serving, which those hit on all of those. But with serving, like how can you be proactive in serving? And with all of these things, you should have metrics around how you can set goals to, work on your faith. How can you set goals to be closer with your family and friends and work? Like set up your success and then set up serving opportunities. And when I learned that from Tony Robbins and Arthur Brooks, I wanted to put metrics to make sure that I was achieving all those. And I thought it'd be the first 3.5 are really easy to put metrics behind, but serving, you kind of have to be proactive and figure that out. And, with what you're making in your business and things like that, you can put a percentage to serving. Something that has altered my life and given me all these great opportunities is I've decided to put 5% of whatever I make in life to serving. And I have that in a separate location where I know how much I have financially to give. And then like if you're in a hard spot financially, you can give with your time, you can give with your effort, and it doesn't just have to be financially. There's a lot of different ways to give. And that's just like, if I could scream anything from the mountain tops, like focus on the art of fulfillment and stay hungry, dream big, and execute your dreams. Serve the world. That's how you're going to live a fulfilled life. If you're 8 years old, if you're 20 years old, if you're 60, if you're 80, but if you start in your 20s, just compound effect and compound interest of knowing how to do this. There's so much sacred power in that. But that stuff all starts with educating yourself and figuring out how you can give.
Wow, dude. Yeah, Tony. Dude, we're talking about Tony literally on every podcast. Like he needs to come on and sponsor the show, I swear. But dude, he says the top 3 spiritual needs are, number 1, love and connection. And like love and connection with people you work with, your friends, your family, like that's a spiritual need. And like a lot of books I've read on happiness, like to the level that you're connected will be to the level you're happy. And that's huge. So spend time every day with people you love and be intentional with that. Second, growth. Like grow or die. Like if you're not growing in every area of life, like you're going to feel like you're dying, and like you should have a system and process to measure each area of life that you're trying to grow, right? And then third, contribution. Like, to the level that you serve will be the level that you feel fulfilled. And like, the more you can give, and not just financially, like give of your time, your money, your knowledge, which like the podcast for me is like a way to contribute back. And like, cause dude, I've listened to thousands of podcasts before I ever started my own.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I would love to start a podcast to like give back my knowledge of what I've learned. And so it's really cool. Cause like, if you just focus on those three needs, like love and connection, growth and contribution, you'll be happy and you'll be proud, hopefully, of the life you lived if you're intentional with that. So
your chances are a lot higher.
Yeah. Dude, and that's really cool too, that you get to talk to people towards the end of their life, and they get to teach, like they get to tell you what lessons they learned. Cause like everyone's life is either an example or a warning, and they'll tell you like at the end what not to do and what they wish they would have done. And so you can literally learn from anyone that way. So
I like example or a warning.
Yeah.
That's good.
Dude, so you're in the business of capturing stories. So tell us what makes a great story, Jaxon?
The hero's journey is always a great outline of, and it's how I talk and question my podcast as well. But also doing it in a timeline, and you do this too. I've seen it. So I think capturing someone's life and their story, good ways to answer questions is to, one, paint a picture of whatever you're talking about, two, give a specific experience that talks about that thing, and then three, what have you learned from it? So like me growing up, talk about, I grew up in Farmington with 5 brothers. It's chaotic and all that. Give a specific story when, almost every week we'd have a water slide out and we would run, just be crazy, everything you can imagine with sports. And then 3, the power, or like the learning, just always be proactive, active, and enjoy time with your family. Like that is so sacred. And so I think wherever you're at, when you're talking about the hero's journey, your call to adventure, mentors, all that, talk about the specific, paint the picture, what you're talking about, specific story, and then what you've learned from it. That's like a great mind to stay. And then people don't care about the minuscule details. Like, it's like I grew up in Farmington. I'm not saying I grew up in 1817 North Compton Road. Like,
right.
No one cares.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what's the name of that one person? And you're stuck on it for 10 seconds. You've lost the attention of the audience. And so just being concise in what you're talking about, people throw up information. I still suck at it. I need to get better. But keep things concise.
I like that. Let people picture it, experience, give an experience or an example, and then your takeaways or what you learn from it. Yeah. Dude, awesome.
I want to add something to that.
Yeah, go for it.
So another thing, when you're interviewing, say I'm interviewing someone like, how did you meet your wife? Or how'd you meet your loved one? And then just go deeper. Go like that depth I've talked about a couple times, go deeper. And, as many whys you can ask in those, it's so powerful. So it's like, how'd you meet your loved one? Why out of everyone in the world did you choose to marry that person? Why does that person make you feel so special? And just why? The power of why in your own life and like what you're designing, what you care about, and getting to know people, why is the strongest word that you could talk and ask anyone.
And it's like your story of like, why should someone get a life legacy documentary? Like that's the people, that's what people want. Like, cause you're the answer to that. So that's really cool. Dude, let's talk about entrepreneurship briefly. So, what would be your advice for someone that wants to start a business or is in business?
Yeah. I think going back to the why, you need to have a deeper why. You can do, we're in a time where you can make money from anything you want. I feel like, and there's ideas that fall, but there's enough wheels that have been invented where you can go into a career almost in everything and you don't need to recreate the wheel. But just make sure you love it. And you're going to have hard times. And again, it's just consistent, minuscule progression in your companies. And just like try and find the little wins in daily activities and just don't make it about you. Like that outward mindset is success. And so, but be proactive and dream bigger than you expect. Everyone that's made it typically talks and wishes that they dreamed bigger and they did it with more loved ones and bringing on the right people. And so to make that a little bit more dense, dream big, execute with strategy, keep pushing through, push through the hard. The reason why a lot of people fail is they get through certain levels of obstacles and then they quit. You don't ever have to quit. And quitting is a choice. And there's a time where, people feel like it's the right thing in their life and you don't have to. And there were probably 3-4 times in my business that unless you're a psychopath, you would have quit. And that's what, my wife kept me in this. My dad kept me in this. And so just make sure that is embedded so deep in you because you're going to need it. Anyone that has made it, you can ask them all. They've failed miserably and they continue to move on. And that is the difference of success and having a story of when you started a company.
I love that, dude. And I feel like, the bigger the goal in life, the bigger you dream, the more obstacles and the more adversity you're going to get hit with.
1000%.
But that's literally just life, just seeing how bad you want it, Who are some of your big mentors along the way and why?
Yeah. First one is my Grandpa LJ. I remember I went to his house all the time and everyone would go, they'd have a bunch of good food. And he at the time, it was the biggest house in Roy and he just built a really cool life. And we'd just go, we'd watch football and hang out with the cousins. My grandma's a talker, so he would never talk. And one day it just hit me. I was like, my grandpa's created all this amazing life and legacy. I don't know a thing about him. And I was 18 at the time. And so I just was like, Grandpa, tell me your life. I don't know anything about you. I just know that you've been successful in business somehow. And so we sat down. I took him to lunch a couple times. And then he gave me a book to read that started me on my self-development journey. Changed my life.
Was that How to Win Friends?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Life altering. And another one, guys, what is on the internet? There is pure gold that people don't care about. Tony Robbins, you've heard of every leader that has been in your world before has in one way to another probably been impacted by Tony Robbins. A third mentor, and I'll mix these two, but my Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ have just been the biggest mentors to me, hands down, and have kept me with high confidence that I can achieve anything. There's a promise in the scriptures that I love more than anything, and it's given me all the confidence in the world. He's talking about, don't worry about what you will eat or drink or what you'll wear tomorrow, for God knows all the things that you need. And then Jesus makes this promise that has altered my life forever, but it is first seek God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. And to me, that means God knows everything that you're going through, absolutely everything you need and everything you want. He will give you the best life that he can provide for you if you will put God and his righteousness first. And so that's something I just strive for, that I fall short in all the time. And like I'm not perfect in any shape or form, but intentionally trying to keep that at the forefront of my mind has allowed me to drive and have a hunger, knowing that, you know, one of the giants that I'm standing on literally created this world and has saved my soul. I like, what's a better mentor that you could have?
Amen, dude. No, it's true. And it's really cool because, like, going back to your mentors, like you talked about your grandpa, you talked about Tony, and then you talked about Jesus and God, right? And it's like, dude, people like make fun of me for talking about like Tony Robbins, for example, all the time. But like, I'm like, he is the most Christ-like, one of the most Christ-like people living on earth right now. Like,
I agree.
in my opinion, like he's helped, like you said, literally any mentor that you look up to has roots back to Tony Robbins, most likely, like, or has gone to Tony Robbins events. And then like, it's so cool. Cause like Jesus Christ and God, like if you look at the two biggest commandments in life, it's like, become like God, become the best version of yourself, and then serve as many people as you can.
Yeah.
And like, if you just do that, you'll live a fulfilled, happy life, most likely. So
It's beautiful. Just something to add with that. There's these mentors and gurus. There's a ton of them. Utah's good at focusing on them, I think, and I don't know how else it is throughout the world, but just realize that no one is perfect. And Tony Robbins made, you know, mistakes.
tons.
A bunch of like big heroes to people, they have made a lot of mistakes. And myself, I have made a lot of mistakes. I'm sure you've made some mistakes, but you can learn from those people, from their triumphs and their failures. And you don't, just because someone has screwed up in XYZ doesn't mean that you need to push them to the side and be like, you know what, they're worthless to me.
Right.
You can learn from the greatest people. You can learn from homeless people. Everyone has something to teach. And it's just our job and obligation to learn if we want to continue our success.
I agree. But I also think like who you learn from matters a lot. And
1,000%.
And you want to spend way more time with the people that lives are examples rather than the people that lives are warnings, because literally every interaction will nudge you one way or the other. And like, for example, like let's just say you only followed Alex Hormozy on Instagram. That's the only person you followed. He was your only mentor. Will you be more business oriented than family oriented after watching his content for a year?
Yeah.
1,000%. So like, I do think everyone's life is a warning and an example, and you can learn from everybody. But like, who you learn from the most should be someone that you admire the most in all aspects of life. And that's why I like Tony so much.
Yeah.
Because I look up to him in all aspects. I have a lot of heroes and mentors that I look up to in certain avenues.
Yeah, specific things.
But he's like wide lens. And even then, like, the guy's been divorced, I think, more than once. And like, he has made mistakes, but like the person he is now is awesome. And I look up to him. And that's why I spend most of my time learning from him than others, if that makes sense. So
definitely. Yeah. Anyone you can find that you want to be like them in 10, 20 years, proximity, get closer,
power.
right?
What are some of your favorite habits?
I love to work. I love my work. And so I do that most of my time. I love the ocean. I love traveling. Pickleball and tennis are so fun to me. Any sport to me, sincerely, is really fun. I suck at basketball. That's probably like my downfall of my sports life. And then Like my brother explains, an ideal day for Jaxon would probably be going to the airport and just meeting the person next to him. And so like I just love real conversations. I'm pretty rough at surface level conversations. If we're talking for 2 minutes and we haven't gone anywhere, like I'm trying to leave. Like I need authentic conversation.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sorry. What's something you've done that we should all do?
I think what has helped my trajectory of life probably the most is be insanely intentional with your time, efforts, and your mindset. The way society is kind of like we're on a river that is going down and going down to below average lifestyle in every aspect. When you think of marriages, when you think about physical, mental health, everything, like society is pushing you to a negative outcome. So you need to design your life to be able to go upstream and know where you're going, or you're just going to fall down the river like everyone. And you're just going to be an average of the statistics, and all the statistics are horrific. So after my mission, I think the biggest game changer has been weekly planning and annual planning of what I really care about. Starting with annual planning and just really designing your vision of what you care about. I just planned the next 2 years of my business and I'm stoked out of my mind about it. And I am now doing the weekly planning that I need to do to make sure that that dream comes to fruition. And I do that with all the other areas of my life that's important. So every Sunday, I go to the temple typically, and I just sit in the parking lot and I plan my life for about an hour and make sure I'm reviewing, priming myself to get in the right energy to plan my next week, where I'm going to come at this next week at my best version of myself. And throughout that, I'm going to fall short. And I'm hoping that I fall short about 30% of the time. And so I'm striving for goals and being okay with falling a little bit short, and it just continues to the next week. And I think that has probably changed my life trajectory more than about any other thing.
I love that. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right?
Yep.
So plan your day the night before, plan your week the week before, plan your year before the year starts. And that's why this was the first year, but I got those big ass calendars.
Yep.
And it's so cool to like see your year before it even happens. And it's fun. I love that. 3, 2, 1 pivot. What are 3 books that have impacted you the most and why? You've talked about a lot of people, so we'll skip that one. And 1 quote. So 3 books and then 1 quote that has impacted you the most and why.
Yeah. So 3 books, I would say How to Win Friends and Influence Me. I learned that psychologically, there's little changes that you should do. And if it's a should, it's a need. And that will just help you be a better person and show your love in a more effective way to other people, where you can build real relationships and learn communication. I think Compound Effect. Have you read that?
Darren Hardy.
Yep.
So good.
I think that gave me more of a to-dos that will help the success of my life. And 3, just probably mostly the New Testament and the Book of Mormon and Doctrine and Covenants. Those have been, and that's just helped me learn to be a better person and watch out for failures and typical patterns of people and cultures.
Love that. And 1 quote.
Let me look real quick.
Yeah, you're good.
I have a bunch of quotes.
I have a whole note of favorite quotes, and it's so long I can't even read it anymore. While he's pulling that up, yeah, like the Compound Effect, if you haven't read a self-help book before, the Compound Effect is my favorite one to recommend first to people because it's so good and it's like it's an entertaining, easy read, really digestible, really applicable. So start with that one if you haven't read one before.
Okay. The one that I like, it's by John Maxwell. It's Dare to Dream, but please do, for dreamers are many and doers are few. And I'm a huge optimistic person, and I've been laughed at for it in my life. And I have dreams that sometimes there's a lot of people that I don't talk to them about because, the people that you talk to matter. The mentors that you want to be like matter. And so I just think it's really important to dare to dream your dream life. You have one go at this, and you have the greatest people around you. You have success if you want it, if you're willing to do it. If you dare to dream and then you do it. And so to me, that one hits hard for what I care about.
I love that. On your deathbed, what do you want to be known for?
Yeah, you would think I would have that one ready, right? I just want to fulfill my life purpose and have I do this meditation where I look at all my past greatest moments in my life and all the future greatest moments of my life that I will have and experience. And I want my parents proud of me. I want to make a difference to my siblings. And I want to help as many people as God wants me to help improve their life and come closer to Christ. And I just hope on my deathbed, I feel like I've reached my potential and that my kids are going to be leaders that will help continue make the world a better place.
I love that. If you had the world's attention for 2 minutes, what would you want them to know?
It's a good question. First and foremost, that God is real and he loves you and will do anything for you. And focus on loving others. Just kind of like the first two great commandments, I think there's a reason why those were preached. And if you want a fulfilled life, remember faith, family, friends, work, achieve your success, and serve the world.
Wow. Dude, this has been a lot of fun, man. Thanks again for coming out. Where can people find you, Jaxon?
Yeah, Gage, you're an unreal guy. Serious. I'm so excited for Gage in 5 years and 10 years. And I hope we can continue to grow our friendship and add value I'd just love to add value to whatever you're working on throughout our time together. But everyone can find me at Jaxon Cummings Official on Instagram. Check out the podcast, the Life Legacy podcast. We bring on anyone with an inspiring life story that will positively influence our audience. And our guests have been unreal. And that's where I could probably add the most value to your world, whatever you're seeking and trying to understand better. And it's not me adding a lot of the value, it's the guests are unreal. And so, yeah, those are the main places. And please reach out if there's anything I can do to add value to what you're wanting. If you have any specific questions, do a DM in this podcast comments as well. You should leave a 5-star rating for Gage. He's doing a remarkable job and his preparation is amazing.
Dude, appreciate that. And where can people get access to your business and get that going?
So it's Your Life Legacy on all socials. I'm here to help. If you reach out to me personally, we'll get things going and I'll give you a discount. So that's probably a good way to do it as well. Your Life Legacy, if you just type that in on Google, it's your-life-legacy.com, which is annoying to me, and we're changing that soon. But yeah, you can find us anywhere.
Heck yeah. Dude, this has been awesome. And I think the reason I really have vibed with you is like, I think everyone in life, we've talked about this, but everyone in life has a hunger level. And I feel like on a scale 1 to 100, let's say, some people are like 5, some at 20, some are like 50. Then there's like the crazies at 100. And I feel like I'm at like 110. I feel like you're at like 110. And so it's really fun because we're like the same age, and it's really going to be cool to like, yeah, just watch each other grow and help each other on the journey. So, dude, you're inspiring. I know a ton of people have gotten value. Go listen to go listen to his podcast, Jaxon's podcast, and especially the podcast episode with Casey Baugh, Fire. And until next time.
Yeah. Thanks, Gage.
Peace.